Reflections on Mars by Lisa J. Wolfe, part of the collection Planting Seeds and Other Stories. This story is dedicated to Robert B. Robert Bone. This is part 2. He had no destination, no appointment. He stopped at a phone booth, felt that old desperate desire to call his ex-wife, but feared he would answer, the cavalier banker. Fingers trembling, he flipped through the delicate pages of the local white pages. There it was, El Quinney. He noted the street address and began walking. Half a mile at most, he estimated. He could use the exercise, he told himself. Alan listened to the soft thud of his shoes upon the street, the sound absorbed by stillness. The houses sat back from the street, half asleep. He couldn't sense the trees here as he could in the woods. These were domesticated sorts, pruned and pampered. By the time he reached the house, the neighborhood had changed. Such a short walk to poverty, 2 blocks at most, between the nicely painted picket fences to the chain-link fence in rusting disrepair. In the silhouette of a street light, a capsized bicycle with training wheels rested by the front gate next to an upside-down sand bucket. Light poured through sheer blue nylon curtains, framing a picture window. Alan imagined Lucy as a large, loud redhead, a cross between a balloon and a bulldog, estimated her to be in her late 30s and quickly approaching middle-aged maternal exhaustion. He pictured her face as tired and cold, lined prematurely, devoid of the soft remnants of youth. All in all, he expected her to be an object for his pity, a sorrowful spectacle in a huge floral house dress, swilling Coca-Cola Classic from a glass bottle. Instead, he saw a slim young woman with stylish, shoulder-length hair, wearing jeans and a sweater, sitting on a sofa, reading by lamplight. Alan felt he knew the face, felt he knew the emotions giving rise to the numbed expression, knew the pathway which led away from feeling those incurable emotions she must be feeling to the solitude he now inhabited. He had learned to read signs from a great distance, had watched the flickering ancient light of distant stars long enough to interpret the face of loss not 50 feet away. He stood frozen on the walk in front of her house. She must have felt his eyes as she looked at him directly, like a cat sensing shadows in the night. He guessed the thoughts running through her mind. Should she call the police? Were the doors locked? He saw anxiety rise in her like a storm. He approached her door and knocked softly. He sensed her standing tensed on the other side. Lucy, it's Alan Warner from the Forest Service. Remember me? You said to stop by." Perhaps a minute passed before the door opened, like a decision, flooding him with incandescent light. "Alan?" She searched his face for a final clue. "Right, the tree watcher." She grinned, relief making her chin impish. "So that's what you look like. Christ, man, you scared the shit out of me. Why didn't you call?" He backed up a step like a wobbly drunk. "I was out for a walk. Saw your light." She laughed dubiously. "Yeah, right. Well," she shook her head, "I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I know you're all right. Come on in. I wished I'd have known you were coming. I'd have fixed something nice. Got some chicken and beer if you want it." She moved slowly, slippered feet sliding on the linoleum. He came into the entryway, stumbled on a metal toy dump truck. He felt like Gulliver in the land of the Lilliputians. Kid stuff everywhere. Lucy kicked the truck out of the way. "You've got to excuse me. I'm kind of zonked. Since Charlie turned 5, the state's trying to force me back to work." Alan half expected to see his own home, his own wife, his own son. He felt disoriented. I had to start a job training program I was just reviewing for tomorrow. This stuff's really boring. She led him to the sparsely furnished living room and picked up a computer manual from the sofa. Excuse the mess. Traces of conversation still hung in the air, the mix of activity that makes up family life, the rush of trivial essentials, the wild wind of a small child. He felt excessively self-conscious. I finally finished getting Chucky ready for bed. She wiped a piece of hair off her brow. It's a touch-and-go situation. He'd stay up all night if I let him. Kid's a dynamo, a real live wire. What can I get you, a beer? Lucy wrapped her arms across her small chest. I wanted to tell you something, Lucy. He tried to hold her gaze with his. She looked back at him like a tired mother looks at a wayward child, like a sober person looks at a drunk, poised, patient, prepared for anything. He felt like he was standing at the top of a waterfall. He decided to dive. Get angry, he said. I mean, you don't block it up. Yell, cry, scream if you have to. Don't say it doesn't matter. It does. It does. I swear to God it does. Don't be like me. Don't wait 10 years living like a hermit, staring at stars alone because you can't face yourself, denying my feelings, your feelings. Don't let him make you think there's something wrong with you because he can't be honest with you. Fight back. She stared at him like he was an alien. I mean, my wife left me for someone else, and I told myself it doesn't matter. Just like you now. Left my kid behind, my friends, my life, because I thought she knew something about me I didn't. Found out the truth about me. Assumed I was no good to anybody. Decided it didn't matter. Just walked away. Became a ghost, a tree. At least trees talk to each other. Commune. Don't lie to themselves. Scream when you cut them down. You know, trees scream when you saw into them. He wanted her to understand. They cry out. Not me. I just turned it off. Thought I could get to a clear space without going through the thickets, the briars. Be Buddhist about it. Assume my feelings don't exist. I came to tell you not to. Feelings are real, important. He searched her face for comprehension. She stared at him unblinking, waiting, like he was a strange spectacle, Bigfoot or something. Wow, Alan. Intense. Do you want some coffee? You seem really strung out. Come on and sit down. She led him towards the sofa like a nurse leads an ailing patient. No, no. He couldn't look at her. I can't stay. I just wanted to tell you all this. You sounded so hurt on the phone. In trouble. I know how that feels. Know how you feel. You made me feel I've been remembering, reliving, feeling horrible, like I'm on fire. I hurt. The image of Susan was vivid, more clear than Lucy. The vision made him squeeze his eyes shut. I'm sorry. This is my fault, Lucy said. No, it's okay. It's good. I'm human again. Not a rock, an element. Not just a bunch of chemical reactions. I'm a man, a human being. I just wanted to tell you, to warn you. I just wanted to... A strange feeling welled up in his chest, pushed up in his throat, stopped the rhythm of speech. A sound caught in his throat like a trapped bird. He closed his eyes and tried to push it out. I just wanted, he tried. I just, she put a hand on his shoulder. Wanted to, she whispered. It's okay. I know what you're saying I do. You don't have to say a thing. I just wanted to. The sound stuttered in his mouth. Alan heard footsteps and a brown-haired boy in Spider-Man pajamas stood in the doorway. Mama? He went to Lucy's side. She squeezed her boy. It's okay, Chucky. Alan watched her comfort him, watched the child watch him. Alan couldn't stop crying. The sound seemed tremendous, monumental, earth-shattering. How could Lucy stand the noise? Tears carried Alan along like a flood, loosening shallow-rooted trees in its path. He was helpless against the momentum. I only wanted... He gasped out the words like he was throwing them to shore. To be kind. He rested breathless, as though he'd managed to scramble to solid ground, having saved what he could. I'm sorry, he said from a void within himself. I'm sorry. He wasn't sure to whom he was speaking. It's not your fault. Lucy shook his arm. It's not your fault. The words came from a great distance. It's not your fault, she repeated. You are kind. Your ex is probably a louse like Charlie. Alan looked from Lucy to Chuck, like a sleepwalker struggling to awaken. The boy squeezed his mother's leg and looked up at her with a worried expression. It's all right, Chucky. The truth's just the truth. Alan gulped air in big waves, like he was learning to breathe. The fire in his legs dispersed, and a deep chill formed in his chest. He began shivering. The boy still watched him. I'm sorry, Lucy, for doing this in front of your boy. It's shameful, I know. Lucy shook her head. I'd rather have him see a man with a broken heart than have him grow up with none. Tears are a good cleansing thing. You poor men could do with some regular sobbing. Save the rest of the world a lot of trouble, I guarantee you. She ran her fingers through Chucky's hair. You want that coffee now? Take about 10 minutes to brew. I don't mind visiting for a while. She was on the verge of movement. He waved his hand. I should go, really. You don't need to watch 2 kids tonight. You sure you're all right? She smiled slightly. Sure, I need to head back. I have an early day, he lied. He started towards the front door, like an old sailor with sea legs, unsteady on terra firma. Is that all you wore? Alan felt her looking askance at his short-sleeved cotton shirt. It was warm when I left. Where do you live? She moved towards the closet door, the boy clutching her leg, moving with her. We'll give you a ride. Just let me get a coat for me and Chuck. Don't let me put you out, Lucy. Where do you live? She asked again. The boarding house by the bank, upstairs. Jane said she had a nice, quiet tenant. Hardly ever there, real regular. Must have meant you. Lucy pulled out a red hooded jacket for Chuck and a gray wool sweater for herself. She bundled up the boy and opened the door. Come to dinner, we can compare war stories. Have a regular pity party. Friday okay? You sure you don't mind having a wild man to dinner? She snorted. Wild. You men. She opened the door. First, drink 2 bottles of wine and pass out on my sofa after trashing the place like Charlie do. Then you can pass for wild. Tears and honesty aren't listed under wild in my book. I don't drink, he said. I didn't think you did, she said. They stood under the dark sky. The silence pulled him back in tune. Oh, damn, Lucy said. I gotta put the clothes in the dryer, or Chucky'll be wearing pajamas tomorrow. Excuse me. She went back in, leaving the door open, so light slashed across the front steps. Chuck stood so still Alan guessed the boy to be practicing invisibility. Alan felt the space between them. You like stars? Alan tilted his head back to take in the panorama. Charlie looked up too. I like on Star Trek when they go into warp drive. Whoosh! The boy's arms swooped towards the sky. When I grow up, I'm going to serve on a starship. Well, you'll need to know what's up there so you can get where you're going. That right there over by the Big Dipper, Alan pointed. You know the Big Dipper? Chucky nodded. Well, that by the Big Dipper is Draco, the dragon. You can't actually see all of him without field glasses. And standing on old Draco's head is Hercules, the strong man. Hercules has over 10,000 stars in his cluster. Wow, Chuck said. Awesome. Have you got a periscope? I think you mean a telescope. Yes, I do. Usually only pirates got those. You're not a pirate, are you? No, just a forest ranger. That's okay. Forest rangers are cool. Thanks, Alan said. That's nice of you. See over there, that bright red star? It's actually the planet Mars. Do you believe in Martians? Chuck looked pale in the half-light. I suppose, Alan said. What about you? They live underground like ants. That's why we can't see them, Chuck said. Makes sense, Alan said. It's winking at us, Chuck said. Do you think planets feel? Some people say planets have huge souls, that the Earth lives and breathes and we're part of her body. Chuck clutched Alan's hand. One thing I do know, Alan put his hand on the boy's head, that old joker Mars has quite a personality. I've kept an eye on him for years and vice versa. Always seems to be laughing at me. He is laughing, Chuck whispered. Together they peered across limitless darkness, trying to scale the chasms of space and penetrate the distant Martian soil.